Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead and start and open up with Photoshop. Alright, so you can see our home screen. We can create new. We have our options to custom or the default, but we're going to go ahead and start with a photo we already picked out. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. Alright, and as it opens up, we can go ahead and see the interface. So on the left, we see the toolbar with generally almost anything you'd see in normal Photoshop. On the right is our layers panel and layers options. And up top, you can go ahead and find the undo, redo, and save and export buttons. So what I'm going to go ahead and start by doing is the group. So I love to group all of my work. I love to be organized so I know where everything is. And I did notice with this version of Photoshop that if you add a clipping mask layer or you edit the color, if you move the image that you did that to, it's not going to follow with it. So it definitely does mess things up a little bit. So that's why it's always good to group things. And that's my #1 recommendation for this app. One thing I was a little disappointed about was that Photoshop didn't have any rulers, but I found a way to work around it for the most part. So we're going to start with the layers panel, which is pretty adjustable. Basically, you can about do anything to the layer. We have all of our options, opacity. We have at the bottom the effects and the filters. However, those are not accessible on mobile yet, but hopefully they'll be coming out soon. I'm interested to see what Photoshop has to offer with that. So I'm going to start out with changing basically the temperature and the color of the room. I want to go ahead and give it a galaxy vibe, so I went ahead and did like a UV purple of the sorts. So I just wanted to like set it to match the space and stars that I'm about to put in. Alright, so next I'm about to open up the astronomy photo with our stars, and basically our door is going to be opening up to the stars. So for this one, we're going to have to go ahead and create a clipping mask. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this photo to the bottom behind the doorway. I just find this one to be a little bit easier. So we're going to go ahead and put it in another group because organization is key. So we went ahead, we added our mask, and I'm going to go ahead and go to the selection tool. We still have pretty much our same options: freeform, square, triangle. I'm going to go ahead and use the magic wand. Now I did run into some problems with this, and I'm not really sure what the issue was, but I did go ahead and just take the filter layer off because I was assuming something of that was what was creating this problem, and after I took it off, I had no issues. So I'm going to go ahead and get my black paintbrush, and we are going to paint the doorway open to get that photo underneath. And for those of you who don't know what this is a layer mask. So what I'm doing is I'm basically erasing a part of it to expose the photo behind the current one. And now we're going to go ahead and add the girl. Now, when I made this photo, I thought it would be interesting to add like a modern vibe to it. So like, what would Narnia be like today? So we're going to go ahead and clip her out. And I had a particular size for her because she's a little bit younger, so I wanted her a little bit smaller than I think how a woman would be standing in the doorway. Of course not that tall. So we're going to go ahead and flip her because I want it to look like she is taking a photo, a selfie of her and the stars. And I feel like I probably put her about average height, but I think it worked out pretty well. So we're going to go ahead and put her in. Now I wanted to add a frontal shadow of her, and with normal Photoshop I probably would have just used the burn option. However, I didn't see a burn tool, so what I did was a gradient filling from black to white, and then I basically changed the opacity by erasing some of it to give it kind of a depth, to make it look like the back of her is shining at the stars and the front is in the room, so it's darkened. However, there may be other ways to execute this, but that was just the one way that I had found. And make sure when you do this on a new layer, because you don't want to distort the original layer of the girl. So you want to go ahead and add a layer on top where you put that gradient filling. Alright. So next we're going to go ahead and add the moon. And with the moon, I did have some trouble with selecting that I didn't have before. I'm not quite sure what the issue was this time. It seemed that the magic wand just was not picking it up. So what I did is I went ahead and tried the circle freeform, which took me a couple tries, but I did end up getting it to fit the moon just right. And thankfully that worked out. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and invert the mask, and we're going to go ahead and erase around the moon because we want to get rid of that, so we can go ahead and add that to our photo. And of course, this is the easiest part. We have now added the moon, and I'm gonna go ahead and make it a little bit smaller to give it more of a far away vibe. And I decided with this moon I was gonna go ahead and change the color because I felt the room is pink, so it should be shining that pink in there. So we went ahead and add a clipping mask of color balance and basically did the same thing we did to the room, and there we have it.